I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and you gotta admit, Android, iOS, and Windows Phone have been competing for a long time, and we've seen evolutionary updates, but nothing really revolutionary. BlackBerry's aiming to change that. BlackBerry 10 is a ground-up overhaul of the operating system, and this is the BlackBerry Z10. It's time for a full review, but first, special thanks to our partners at Best Buy Mobile for giving us devices like the Z10 for use in our One Paw Bandit giveaway game. When you walk into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. They're going to get your BBM, your emails, your web, your contacts, all that stuff set up, so when you walk out the door, you're ready to go and ready to rock and roll at Best Buy Mobile. Let's take a look. BlackBerry Z10, can this thing compete in 2013 with three major operating systems? We'll find out in the full review, which starts right now. It's finally here, the BlackBerry Z10. We've seen this device, or at least kind of versions of this device in the Dev Alpha devices that we saw last year, but it's finally available in retail stores, at least in the UK and Canada. Coming very soon to the US on various carriers in the States. We know a couple of different ones. Verizon's picking it up. We know Sprint's picking it up. Or was it Verizon, Sprint, Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, and AT&T. Actually, all four, I believe, have committed to it, if I recall. I have to double check on that. It's been such a crazy season in mobile, but really excited about the Z10 for a couple of different reasons. One, as a BlackBerry fan or a former BlackBerry fan, I'm excited to see the company come back and kind of hedge everything on this BlackBerry 10 platform. My concern is, if this had happened in 2008, 2009, during WebOS time, this could be a huge contender in the marketplace. This is 2013, though. Android and iOS are kind of dominating the space. Windows Phone is taking up that third place spot, and they all have very developed app stores and very developed software and hardware, comparatively speaking, to BlackBerry. So while I want them to succeed, it's definitely an uphill battle for BlackBerry as they move into 2013, and another problem is going to be getting this device into buyers' hands in the States. I mean, you're releasing this thing in March. It's kind of unacceptable, kind of unfortunate at that, given the fact that Mobile World Congress will be done. You have HTC's event on February 19th. I really want to see this device come out as quickly as possible. Really impressive hardware all around in the specs. Man, they're bringing it up to par this time around. This thing has a 1.5 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon S4 CPU, so right up there with other devices on the marketplace. It's got a little bit of a smaller 4.2-inch display, though it is HD. Resolution 768 by 1280 pixels. 4.2 inches, though. Pocketable, easy to hold in the hand. The travel, you can make it all the way across the screen, and it kind of resembles, and actually somebody brought this up in the comments, it really resembles a Motorola Droid X, if you remember that device way back when. I say way back when like it's been forever ago, but it really hasn't been that long ago since the device came out. Also resembles an iPhone in terms of the overall kind of boxiness and size. Really nice hardware, though. Again, back to the specs, 1,800 milliamp hour battery, 4G LTE connectivity on various operators in various countries, 2 gigabytes of RAM. It's got a 10-hour rated talk time thanks to that 1,800 milliamp hour battery, an 8 megapixel camera with 1080p HD video recording, and it's got some nifty features as well, which we'll talk about a little bit later in one of the review videos. Front-facing camera, and of course, BlackBerry 10. So really a beautifully designed piece of hardware, and put this on the same size platform just to give you some comparisons to other devices. Here's the HTC One X Plus. Here is the Samsung Galaxy Note 2, so you can see the size difference there. And then here is the Google Nexus 4, which actually very similar in terms of overall look and feel as the Google Nexus 4. Beautiful hardware, though. Volume up, volume down. And then, of course, you've got your voice control button over here as well. Power button up top with a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. Camera on the back. HDMI port and micro USB charging port on the sides. Apparently BlackBerry has not learned their lesson, because you put this in on the side, you got the cord out here. It's hard to type on this device. They did this with all the old BlackBerries. I will never understand why they don't put it down at the bottom of the device, but you know what, minor thing. We'll get into that a little bit later. Here is the start screen, or the lock screen, if you will, of BlackBerry 10, and this is an entirely new platform. So you know what, a full video really deserves to be dedicated to this entire platform, because it is very different than what you're used to from other devices. I mean, beautiful here. You got the Blackberry Hub, which we'll go into in just a second. I kind of flipped over there to give you a preview, but here's kind of what you see when you turn it on. You've got some applications, and you've got the typical BlackBerry stuff, although I will say the overall design is overhauled. First of all, when you turn it on, you can see all the different notifications that I have. Twitter notification, Facebook, Mail, LinkedIn, and then BlackBerry Messenger as well. And then I have a camera shortcut button down here, which if I press and hold, it'll activate the camera if I let it go all the way around in the circle, and then you can actually bring this down and get your alarm clock from the lock screen. But what you have to do is swipe up. You'll notice there are no capacitive buttons on this device. What you do is swipe up from the bottom of the display, and it brings you right in here. And Blackberry Hub was what you saw a second ago, and I'll bring that back to the main screen so you can take a look here. Blackberry Hub is that right there, and then from there you got all your stuff in one spot. It's all consolidated into one place now. You've got BBM text messages, your email accounts, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and more, all from there. Then when you're done, you can just swipe up to swipe out of it. Now, it's a little bit different for individual applications because when you go into BBM, for example, and I swipe up, you can see BBM stays up here. When I go into my little battery meter, for example, I get rid of that, it stays up here. And you'll notice that it creates kind of a new space in between Blackberry Hub and then the applications themselves. But back to the applications, typical BlackBerry stuff here, Blackberry World, which is their rebranded app store, Docs to Go, Blackberry Remember, Storymaker videos, music, and then all your social media stuff, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Foursquare, which I downloaded Foursquare if I remember right. Then you have Maps, voice control, which we'll talk about as well, weather, clock, Dropbox, Box, and then of course a couple of applications that I've downloaded in addition to smart tags, and then some stuff over here, phone as well, camera, and more. So Blackberry Hub is really unique over here on the site. I want to take a look and jump right back into that so you can see what it looks like here. You've got, again, email accounts, you've got your Facebook accounts, and you can go to each individual one, BBM, for example, if you want to, and jump right in, search and compose. And then I can click over here and do to top to bottom. And again, you've got to get this preview look and feel where I can just swipe. And again, it's kind of intuitive. You have to learn how to use this over time. There is a pretty nifty setup guide when you start the device up, but still, it is a learning curve. And I think for a lot of people, they're going to be used to those buttons. Not to say that you can't get used to it over time, but still, it's one of those things, if you hand this to somebody and it's in BBM, they're probably not going to know what to do out of the box. So you've got this, for example, swipe over. You can easily see that. When I'm done, I can swipe up. And I can get back here. And when I want to cancel these applications out, I can, of course, cancel them out just like that. I should add also, just from a flow and organizational standpoint, I can bring up a bunch of different stuff. Calendar, let's see what else. Pictures, bring that up. We'll bring up music. I'm just going to keep bringing stuff up. I don't have any music on here. Videos. And then I want to show you when you got a bunch of different stuff, it scrolls up and down in vertical format. So you've got this where your applications are open, and then you've got all your different icons over here as well, and then back into your Blackberry Hub. Down here at the bottom, you've got phone, search, and camera. So I'll come into the phone application, and forgive me while I pull this away to make sure there are no numbers, and there are numbers. So let's go ahead and get rid of those. Go over here to the Dialpad so you can take a look at what it looks like. Contacts, and then recent calls along with missed calls. Just to give you a quick look, here's what 611 looks like when you dial it. A whole new dialing area with a speaker, Dialpad, call note, where I can take a note and take advantage of the 4.2-inch display and the new on-screen keyboard, which we'll talk about in just a second. Let's pull that away, and let's go into text messaging on that note and bring it over here. So I actually had a text message ready to go. So we'll open this one up and take a look at it. And down at the bottom, you can see you get back buttons, and then when you're done, you've got back, attach, send message, and then I can swipe over because this is part of the hub, and it goes right back. I have some menu options here, attach, name, chat, and more. So let's just say I'm going to say something like Quick Brown Fox, and here's the keyboard. You got portrait and landscape mode options. Huge difference for BlackBerry. I do find it to be incredibly useful, though, and it tries to predict your words. So I can say the reason for the week for the taking care to get the trademark. And the reason for the week for taking care to get the trademark makes no sense, but it tries to guess your words. So I'll say the Quick Brown thinks Fox jumps over the, and surprisingly I did not get lazy, dog. So you can swipe up like that and easily get the word that you're looking for. Of course, you have easy access to emoticons as well. So all in all, really like the keyboard on this device. Still wish text messaging was a little bit more robust, and I wish you had those personalization options. I think that's what people are going to miss the most. Coming from another device like iOS or Windows Phone or Android, moving over to this, it still kind of retains that corporate feel, which obviously they're trying to appeal to the corporate client. They're trying to appeal to the consumer as well. And so they merged it together. In BlackBerry 10, they did a pretty good job. It's definitely the best job out of the company to date on an operating system. That said, you can still tell that this has kind of a corporate feel and less personalization than iOS and Android than Windows Phone and things like that. So you will see that, for example, when we go back here, you can just see it's kind of more of a text-based thing, and that's about it. And of course, I have my email or my appointments up here as well, and text messages in an easy-to-see area. So I like that feature a lot. I like BlackBerry Remember a lot as well. It's pretty useful. We'll go into a new folder and take a look. We're going to do a new green folder, and we're going to call this test folder. And you can see the autocorrect working pretty well, considering I cannot spell. And the 4.2-inch display, speaking of, that may be hard for some people to get used to. Folder, there we go. Can't talk and type at the same time. It may be a little bit harder for people to get used to because it is a smaller display if you're coming from a 4.5-inch or 4.7-inch display. It took me a little bit of time to get used to typing on it pretty comfortably. That said, I am used to it now. Got the folder. I'm going to say my reminder is hey there. Say hey there. And the due date is tomorrow. Say hey on Valentine's Day. And so I've got BlackBerry Reminder right there and it is now open. And then Docs to Go as well, you get that installed out of the box on this device. Now this is the device they gave away at the actual press conference. So this one actually happens to have AT&T 4G LTE connectivity. You're going to see these be carrier specific when they land in the US. T-Mobile's will most likely have HSPA Plus with an upgrade to LTE when they get LTE turned on. It may have dormant LTE, or hey, it may even have it enabled, but until their network is up and running, you're not going to have LTE capabilities. Search is pretty useful as well. I'll jump into search here and we'll say Dan. What do I have from Dan? And then I've got a bunch of different stuff right here. And then my friend Dan Sievert from The Verge, all kinds of different emails that I've gotten from Dan's and more. And I can just swipe in and out of my search. So again, still a very robust search engine on this device. And hey, even then, as you just saw, it took me a minute to get used to, it took me a minute to reaccustom myself to the overall look and feel. Stay tuned for part 2. We'll keep talking about BlackBerry 10. Then we'll get into some of the nitty-gritty stuff like camera, some of the real things that have changed, and hopefully we'll talk about the fact that BlackBerry 10 can regain some space in an already crowded market. Stay tuned for part 2 on PhoneDog.com.